All right, Timmy. So today's podcast, we're focused on, over the last couple months with the name, image, likeness conversation, athletes allowed to get paid. We want to, athletes being college athletes, allowed to get paid, just like they fairly should be, just like any professional athlete is allowed to get paid. And today's conversation is around what we would do if we were a college coach. And this stems from us. We've talked to now dozens of coaches from football, men's basketball and women's basketball. And now let's address some of those questions and see how we can help them. Because a lot of times this comes up in conversation when we're talking to them. But now we wanted to put it out on a podcast form.
Yeah. And it's different. I mean, from all levels, middle level to upper level, top teams in the country, but it's all different. Just hearing their perspective about where they are, how they view it, because everybody's different in general. So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, it has been interesting because we have talked to, the smallest. We've only talked to Division I, right? Yes.
Thus far,
only Division I so far, but and that includes the lowest of the low and the perennial championship competitors.
Yep.
And that doesn't necessarily mean where you are on this whole spectrum of if you're ahead of it. So I'll set the stage here real quick. Just the rules will get passed January 31st that you can get paid off your name, image, likeness, which means you can get paid for appearances.
As a college athlete.
As a college athlete.
Yep.
Basically anything outside of play to go to a school and play to based on your performance. And as far as what you can do, like if I did this, I got a Cassius Clay t-shirt. I couldn't have a logo of my team or a Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, that kind of thing. That's essentially the rules.
Right.
There's a lot of creative aspects to it, and that's where we fall into play. So what we're talking to them about currently is working with them on their marketing and branding, because that's stuff you can do today.
Right.
You could have been doing it 20 years ago, but there's no reason to do marketing and branding for your individual athletes. You do it for your programs. You might highlight them within that, but we think it's important to start doing that today to set them up for success come January when this does all open up.
Yeah, I think it's super important to note too is even a lot of like the biggest level coaches, they highlight when they're talking about this, they're like, well, the athletes aren't going to be able to use the name. What about the trademark with the teams or stuff or the Nike Adidas deals?
Yeah.
That has literally nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Nothing at all.
But we're doing everything outside of it. And that's where the bigger opportunity is anyways.
Yeah. And so for us, it's been a little bit of a teaching. Depending on the school, most places, there's a teaching component to what we're doing. We're
9 out of 10,
Yeah, we're showing them, all right, here's what the opportunities are. Here's where you guys will fall in line, and here's where you guys can't touch.
Right.
And that's where, obviously that's a whole part of what we're doing when we're having these conversations is figuring out where they are and where we can help on their end.
Right. But it makes sense that they want the education piece because they've been stuck in the vertical of here's how the school operates, here's what our assets are, here's what we have available.
Yep.
And then you open up a whole floodgate of here's what you could potentially do. This is basically your professional athlete. Now you need to think a little bit differently from an organization, meaning the schools and the coaches and athletes, everything down.
Yep, it's different, just different.
Yep.
But again, you can the branding and marketing of an athlete could have been happening forever ago. This could have always been happening. There was just no end goal. So now is the opportunity to get out in front of that, and that's where we're teaching and educating is how this has nothing to do necessarily with the name, image, and likeness. All it is prep to set you up for this.
Right.
So I got my laptop here for once.
I'm interested to see what's behind the door.
Well, I already emailed it to you, so you know it is
okay.
behind the door. So just essentially, I wrote down just notes on like here's some hot topics. Here's what they're asking us, and here's where we think they can succeed from. So, like if I'm a coach, the first thing I'm doing is my recruiting pitch is highly centered around name, image, and likeness. So in a typical recruiting pitch, you're talking about your team, your academics, the family aspect of it, your
graduation rate,
graduation.
Yeah. All the academic sides.
Yes. That aspect of it, and that's all great and definitely needs to be a part of it. But part of it is like what we think the next evolution of this is include in there your branding, your marketing, your name, image, and likeness piece has to be in there because right now in the recruiting process where we are, depending on your sport, you're still recruiting 2021 and starting to recruit 2022 athletes. So those are your high school grads, 21, 2022s. Those kids get paid day one on campus. So they should, and we've talked to some big coaches one at a massive school where a student athlete who's in high school came to them and said, "Hey, I have a question about name, image, likeness," and this person sent them to the compliance department, which to me,
goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah, and I told him that too. I said that's a massive missed opportunity. I said in a very nice, polite way, but letting him know that that kid knew that, but because he talked to other coaches, they're essentially their competition. And they got a better answer than that. Yep. So we think it's important to start building around each specific kid. How can you fit your current marketing or your current recruiting pitch to fit all this stuff? How can you create a brand? What's this person like? How can we fit the needs of Tim Curran when he comes on campus? Like that kind of thing. And so there's the branding aspect of it, but also with just general numbers. So when you're doing a typical recruiting pitch, I saw Texas, for instance, they're talking about Austin in general, and we're not working with Texas. That's why I'm able to speak about them, and they're talking about it publicly anyway. Yeah. So they talk about the city of Austin, the grads of Texas, those types of aspects. We think you can tweak that to fit name, image, likeness, where it is the alumni, the business owners, small local business owners to national big business owners. You don't have to say you're going to get paid by this guy, but hey, here's opportunities. These are the types of people that support our program. These are the types of partners we've currently worked with. Here's an idea of some partners we think would be a good fit for you in the future. So you set them in that next level, that year, that 2-3 years down the line of here's what you're going to be when you come here, like they already do, but now you're going to fit it to this name, image, likeness opportunity.
Right. Just the idea of that they're thinking ahead in the future about that potential athlete is essentially all they have to do today.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. And doing that, I think it puts you ahead of the curve, because we know in our conversations, 50-50 on whether or not they've talked internally about this, and 5-6 publicly I've seen people, schools, or at least one person from a school talk about. So I think that twist and shift is super important to it. Anything I missed on that aspect of it? Even so thing like TV rights. Are you Big 12 network, or what assets could you potentially do? Can a kid now be on TV on the Big 12 network, or can you create a piece with him on the ACC network, an analyst piece, or maybe we talked to one coach. I don't know if I should say this one, but I'm not gonna say who it is, but one of the coaches, one of their players is big in an accounting major. So let's create a financial piece around that. Do you not love that?
No, I don't. You're going down a hole that I don't love, but go ahead.
I like examples.
Yeah.
So let's create financial pieces around this player to help them succeed for their next level. Create the brand around this individual so they understand what to be able to do outside, or one, to capitalize, but then outside of their sport. Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't say too much.
You were going there, but I stopped it. Thank God I was here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like examples.
I know. No, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, but so thinking just slightly different on where this is. Go ahead.
No, I was just breathing. I was just gonna say. So if you were a coach or recruiting specifically, where would you stand with this? How are you going about it?
Oh, I would be at the forefront of this. To me,
how though?
How would I be?
If let's say you're recruiting coordinator, and then there's head coach, there's ADs. How are you going about it?
If I'm the recruiting coordinator today, we're having this conversation as a staff. Here's our opportunities. Here's what our competition looks like. School X, Y, and Z. They've not talked about it publicly, but maybe they are internally. I'm laying out the education piece. Here's where it is staff wide. Here's what we need to do. Here's what we can do today. We can start right now working on marketing and branding with our athletes. I'm going to hire Curran Media Co. to come in, work with that specifically. And I'm going to lay it out as marketing branding piece, and then set up our recruiting pitches. So our recruiting pitches can fit all of this.
Yep.
So set it up to where we're speaking about Tim Curran and Pat Curran. And when that recruiting pitch comes, it's not your most schools they're creating really good assets for the kids. To kids to post, to kids to talk about, hey, I just received an offer. Here's where I'm at. My top 5. There's all these different things that they're already putting out.
Which is great, but it's not the same.
Different.
Yes.
So now I'm shifting and getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it. My next conversation, or I want every conversation with my coaches let me backtrack and say that better. I want every coach, their next conversation with the recruits, to include something about name, image, likeness. Yeah. Maybe it's just an education piece. Here's where we are, and here's 3 talking points about why we're going to be better than anybody else we recruit against. So now we've got this set of basic informational tools to work with. Now I'll go and then create longer assets to work with us. We'll create more
detailed
information.
Plan and whatnot.
This should be out today. This should be public on Twitter. You're posting it on Instagram. It's a part of your recruiting videos. Like, all of this stuff should be at the forefront of your conversation, because it is different and because most people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, obviously.
Yes.
But I think that in our conversations too, the ones that are like, we're going to sit back and wait to see what NCAA decides next year, those guys have already lost the next 12 to 24 months.
No question. And again, I've said this before, is the name, image, likeness rules has nothing to do with marketing and branding today. Yeah. Nothing to do. You can do it. You could have been doing it for 20 years. It just didn't make sense. There was no end game. So now you really need to be doing it to set yourself up for success. You can't just show up next year and be like, all right, pay our guys. Now that you'll get paid. I mean, that would happen anyway, but at a higher level and at a more successful level, let's set them up now for that next level stuff.
Yep.
Great question.
Thank
Tim.
you.
I love that you put me
Question
in
of the day.
You know what? I side note, I'll get off track here for a second. I interviewed for a recruiting coordinator position. So this was D2 football, Ashland University. I was a GA at the time. I was quote unquote interviewing for a recruiting coordinator and like assistant DB coach or whatever. So they were just trying to they liked me and they were just trying to find a position within it. And the athletic director ended up hiring a guy that he liked, that he had hired as a head coach at a Division II school. Came in and I heard from within that I would have been a much better fit. Anyway, but I did do that.
Well, there's your recruiting pitch. Go back and be that recruiting coordinator. You got your pitch now.
And here's the thing too. I know it's depending on the school and the program. It's either director of recruiting or there's like GMs now. There's director of operations, like those types of guys. This can be a massive, massive game changer, not only for the program, but for them to be at the forefront of this, to be one of the first people to really speak out, move forward with this, get the information out, get their players, get a handful of, even if it's a handful more recruits that are, we also understand the margin, the margin of the reasoning for a kid to go to school X versus school Y is so slim. So if you can be at the forefront of this and be ahead of this, that might get you a handful of kids.
Yeah. And if you're like you said, like the recruiting coordinator, whoever it is that is being the leader of that within the organization becomes the hero because they just got those 5 recruits. Those 5 recruits changed the game for next year. Yep. They won more games. They made millions more dollars as an organization, and now they're all set up.
Yeah. No doubt. And they know this. Programs know this. Especially when you're talking football, men's, and a good amount of women's basketball programs. Those are your money makers. Yeah. So if you're like I went to Bowling Green. I think you were gone at this point when I was at Bowling Green. We were top 15 in the country.
I was there.
You were there?
I was there.
That was your freshman year?
Yep.
So we're top 15 in the country. We have college game day. We go from 17,000 students on campus. The next year we had 21,000.
Yeah.
That's 4,000 extra students. Good math by me. But that's also, I think it was 15,000-ish to go to school there. Am I going to do the math there?
I don't know.
I don't know. $6 million. I'm not even going to check it, but some are 4 times 15. Yeah, ish. So a lot of money, and that's what happens all across the country. When your programs are better, your schools succeed, and you make more money.
Well, and then I'm sure like the back end of that was BG was on television more, so they were able to get more of a licensing deal from the television rights or whatever. And then I remember when Bowling Green was recruiting me specifically, it was we're going to be on ESPN one time this year, or they use that in recruiting. There's a lot of things that could be used.
Yeah, and I do think figuring out ways to highlight your players through the ACC networks of the world, the SEC networks, like they're starving for content year round. They're starving for content, and if we can help teams put together pitches to them, that's another way for athletes to get paid. That has nothing to do with their program specifically, but now we've got this asset piece for the SEC network, and a sellable piece, and they'll get paid for it. I think that's kind of the general idea of we answered most of the stuff that we've talked about. Anything else? from a coach's perspective, because I want if a coach listens to this, I want them to say or to listen and say, all right, I've got a better feel for this. I've got an idea of why I need to move forward and not wait.
Yeah, I think
without getting too deep into our pitches.
Yeah. I'll stop you when you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, but and every pitch is different anyway. We have those general talking points, and each school is going to be different. Each coach is going to be different in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and I think going to your point of everything's different. Going from smaller schools or smaller sports within bigger schools, I think one thing that coaches, some coaches are going to have to focus on this, some won't. It'd be more of my athletic departments or marketing departments. Yeah. But there's a realization of there might not be fans in stadiums, in arenas.
Yeah.
I think that those coaches, athletic departments, marketing departments need to be creative of ways that they can generate money, because we've talked about this, and we've talked about this with a handful of coaches, is even though there won't be fans in the stadiums, if you're creative enough, you shouldn't lose. Your bottom line should not lose any more money than, or you should have the same amount of revenue generated by being creative and using technology than before.
Well, yeah, it's tough to say that without giving ideas, but we have.
Yeah, I'll stop you then.
Yeah, well, I know, but there are lots of creative opportunities. You're seeing with the whole COVID deal, all these new media opportunities. Mm-hmm. So social media, big giant media companies are now purchasing different assets. There's opportunity to be creative.
You have to be too, especially if there's no fans.
But and these are places that aren't used to being super creative from athletic marketing departments.
Right.
Because I've been in a couple. I'm pretty aware of how these work. They're used to running it up again, the same thing we did last year. They've got to be creative, and I think that's another component to what we can help. Is like, hey, let's not only help the players, the teams, but all that leads to the athletic department and the schools and likely the cities where they're at too.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you're right, because they've been in the same engine doing the same thing for years. Yeah. That opening their eyes, and I mean, truthfully, a lot of these guys, they went to school there and then they've been doing the same thing. And let's say the average person is upper 20s years old. They have never started a business before, so they don't have to think creatively on how to generate revenue outside of what.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, so it's different, and I think that's an angle that we bring and can help open some eyes at least.
Yeah. And two, when we talk to coaches and recruiting, some of these teams have like a marketing, branding, leadership within their staff, not even just the athletic department, within their staff. So there's people who understand aspects of how to market their team. Obviously they do a great job, but from an individual basis, you're talking differently than you are from a team. Mm-hmm. It's a different pitch. It's a different sell. It's a different vibe trying to put together a brand for Tim Curran, Pat Curran, and then Bowling Green State University. It's just different. So that's where, we want to come and help on that.
All facets. Yeah.
Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, Tim.
On top of that, or a different angle?
Different angle. So many different ways you can do all this, though. It's you grow your own social pages, your team pages, your athletic marketing, your athletic pages. That all helps grow your players and showcase what they do and how to help them. And I think more than ever, this is an opportunity to not just speak about it, but to be about it. Not be a lip service place. Come in, help your guys. If you don't help them, if they don't make more money, if they're not growing their social media brands, if their numbers aren't escalating, it's going to be very obvious now.
There's going to be a clear distinction of who's doing it and who's not doing it in the next 24 months.
On the next podcast, we'll talk about one school that is going all in on this, and I love it. And I actually will hopefully have a conversation with. We'll be reaching out to the school, but we'll talk about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why every other school should be doing it like this. That's it, Tim.
That's it.
Let's get out of here.
That's it.
Dinner time.
Done.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.